Yes, my name is George Ekman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I live at 64 Blackmore Pond Circle in West Wareham, and I spoke briefly at the meeting last time to voice my opposition to granting the variance. I was the one who mentioned the box turtle, and apparently my point was not really taken very seriously, because at the end of the meeting, the lawyer for the petitioner even chose to specifically mention the box turtle, and she dismissed its plight with the following statement, and I quote, "This is not my problem." And she's exactly right. None of this is her problem. This is our problem. This corporation will build its project and go on to the next one somewhere else, leaving all the problems with us. The fact that there are very significant legal precedents supporting the position that there is no valid basis for granting a variance is not her problem. That's our problem. The fact that there are important environmental concerns, not her problem. That's our problem. The fact that there are substantial quality of life issues is not her problem. It's our problem. The fact that this project is situated in a residentially zoned area is not her problem. She just conveniently ignored this important consideration and has tried to hoodwink this board by stating over and over again at the last meeting that there are no residences near this site. Again, not her problem, it's our problem. She was even so bold as to state that any decision made here will not set precedent, as though she has a crystal ball to know the future, what the future will bring. Now, I have a crystal ball too, and my crystal ball says that every corporation wishing to maximize profit will cite this decision, and if we grant this variance today, we won't have a leg to stand on in the future. So it's quite clear to me the petitioner's only concern here is to maximize their profits, and if that means flaunting the laws that were specifically put in place to protect us from such abuses, so be it. It's not her problem. Members of the board, I ask you to consider all of the very substantial objections that have been made against this proposal and weigh their merits against those of a corporation's money grab. In the final analysis, you can choose to either set precedent and encourage this kind of egregious overreach, or you can choose to protect the citizens of Wareham, and I would hope that protecting the citizens of Wareham would be the primary focus of this board. Now, I originally brought up the box turtles because, like the canary in the coal mine, I believe they will be among the first casualties brought about by the serious environmental issues and important quality of life
15
concerns
seconds, sir.
that have been voiced. So the petitioner may choose to treat them with disdain, but it's not their problem because it's very much our problem. So in the final analysis, I realize a few box turtles don't really matter very much. After all, they don't have a vote.
Time is up.
Thank you,
But
sir. We get the
on behalf of
message.
the citizens of Wareham, I urge you to deny the variance, and thank you in advance for your thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next person, please.
Next person on Zoom. A lot of them
Hi.
abandoned.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm Angela Adams Ferrero from Charge Pond. I'm actually also concerned about what could happen to our wells down here. I'm one of the houses that's on a well. And I know in our neighboring town of Carver, they recently stopped a project last October because they couldn't guarantee that the arsenic, chromium, and copper that was leaching into the water table wouldn't affect the neighbors. So they had to stop that project. And then also all the wildlife that we have out there.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, yeah, come forward, please, one at a time. Thank you. And let's stick to the point and make it quick, please, if you don't mind.
I'm here for 2 minutes, I got it.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Kearns Fox. I'm at 214 Charge Pond Road. I'm opposed to the variance request submitted because it fails the required legal criteria, undermines the precise purpose and intent of the solar setback bylaw, and fails to serve the public good. Additionally, most people on Charge Pond Road are on well water. Only a handful are on town water, up until the brick, the brick wall. Also, the town aquifers come there. I also want to address the group kind of saying repeatedly that the planning board said it looks good, and this, kind of indicating this might be kind of a little box they have to check. That, to my understanding, is not the intent of any of these boards or committees. So there's a huge group of Charge Pond Road residents, and I have letters from 22 families here. And that's about it. That's all I have.
Would you like those letters submitted to the file for the record?
I do.
Please bring them
Just one.
forward. Thank you. Thank you for your
You did it in
comments.
50 seconds. You're good.
Good job. Thank you.
All right, next person. Yes, sir, come through.
Eric Nicotra, 214 Charge Pond Road. I have some interests in the study that was done on the groundwater system and the grade. I'm not sure what the company was, but if we could get copies of that, that'd be fantastic. Sure. Do have interest in that. I am a wastewater treatment operator. While that's separate, I also have an interest in the sewer main
Sure.
that you had discussed.
Talking to the board.
You can't talk to the applicant, you can only talk to us.
So, did you hear me?
Yes, we heard
We
you.
can hear, we
Got
just,
it. Okay, thank you. So can we get those? And, you know, just as a final statement, you know, you say in a professional world, we would try to reach compromise. I would say that putting a time cap on the people that have an opposing view as you, after speaking freely as much as you all did, says compromise is in fact not your goal here. A little respect goes a long way, and the lack of understanding of that is pretty shocking.
Thank you.
thank you for your comment.
Those studies, if you go online, they online. You guys inserted that in the application, right?
We can provide a copy to the board for,
Just put it online, add it to the,
We got a
to your
Zoomer that
application,
wants to
yes.
speak.
Now, we're sticking with the floor right now. On the floor, who else would like to speak? Sir, yes.
Eric Lintel of 15 Squirrel Island Road in Wareham. At the last board meeting, Mr. Raleigh stated, not only does it abut the residential district, but it's in the residential district. This would surely affect any future abutters who wish to build homes on parts of this land. The variance being asked for does not show any hardship or special circumstance. There's nothing from stopping them to build within the required buffer of 50 feet. It's still substantially a large project that they're proposing. 4 other solar fields close by have 50-foot buffers. Why should this one be any different? The water issue that you bring up is very interesting. There's a lot of information out there, and very recent information, especially in regards to what the panels are made out of and what the possible cause of those chemicals could run off into the watersheds, people's wells, or in nearby rivers or streams. The setback might possibly help this. Monitoring wells is a good idea. Issue with monitoring wells, if you're dealing with levels of water, then you're dealing with certain times of the year where the water level changes. But water quality monitoring is a whole nother issue. And I would highly encourage any kind of monitoring for the water, especially if they're near the watersheds and nearby creeks and rivers.
Thank you. Next person on the floor. Ma'am?
My name is Jill. I'm from 218 Charge Pond Road. And my time won't be excessive, but it might be a little more than 2 minutes.
Okay.
A question that I did have was answered by one of the representatives here, and that was about the original planning. Because it seemed odd to me that there didn't appear to be a plan that considered our town's bylaw of the 50-foot buffer. So she did sort of answer that question. I would still question why they weren't familiar with our town's bylaws if they were coming with such a large project. The claim of the hardship for the shape of the lot, I don't see how that is an actual hardship where they know what the shape of the lot is. They're aware of the parameters and the restrictions on it. Wanting to put more panels on the property is not a hardship. There are other solar panels located not far from that project that are oddly shaped as well. Those companies managed to do it, and I know there's a narrow sliver there. It is, it's a little disrespectful, I think, for not for lack of a better word, to the town, to the residents, to the bylaws. It just doesn't constitute an applicable hardship. The shape of the land, it just does not constitute that. The property, I've seen it described, and I apologize too, because
You
I
have
only
15 more seconds.
I only became aware of this last week, so I've been trying to play catch up and learning about this. I do have, I've read the letters that were recently sent by the Clavin Law Group. In one of the letters, it states that there are no residential abutters, and there are two.
Ma'am, your time is up. Thank you.
Well, I still have.
If you have letters, you could pass them to
I
us.
have a few things still to offer, and my time is not excessive. I'd like to be able to just kind
Well,
of.
we'll come back to you later. Let's hear from other people. We'll come back.
I think I'm here, and I would just like to finish.
Ma'am, I'm not giving you the floor.
The two, okay, I will present these.
Just present
then
us
as
the
well.
papers.
So I have right here the two residential abutters, 122 and 124. They've signed opposition forms.
Can we have those?
For the variance, along with several other, I don't know if I think 122 was going to try to join us on Zoom. I'm not sure.
Maybe they are. We'll see.
We have some Zoom people waiting to be heard.
Let's finish the people on the floor. Who else on the floor?
All right. I erased the new document I had. I'll get it to you. The leachate is very important. The leachate that's potential from cadmium telluride panels, which is the ones. Are you still going with those panels? Oh, sorry, through you. To ask the proponent if they're still going with cadmium telluride, the First Solar make and model.
Are you still going with that, ma'am? Same model?
We're going with First Solar panels, that's the present plan, and we have submitted documentation to the planning board regarding the lack of leachate from those panels.
Are you suggesting there's panels better than others, or one leaks, one doesn't?
Yes, the study that I am referring to is one from the Stuttgart University in Germany.
I know, but I gotta stop everyone. We're concentrating on variance. These studies, none of us are scientists. No, I totally understand. There's all these big companies makes all these things that tell you one thing, it's another. But this is not the place to discuss this. We're only here for the variance, and we're tired, and we volunteers, and it's taken a long time. So I don't want to discuss much about which pan is which, because we wouldn't know.
Well, you can read the science and you would become more informed.
Veronica, what did you want to say?
I do want to know what she has to say. I do think it's important for us to make our decision.
She should have her 2 minutes.
We're gonna give her 2 minutes.
I stopped it while this
Go ahead,
site-
ma'am. Let's hear the science.
Cadmium is very toxic, and so when you put it in it's combined with telluride, which the proponents, I'm going too fast. The manufacturers say makes it stable and insoluble. The Stuttgart study took 1.5 years testing its solubility under different pHs. The standard is usually 24 to 48 hours. All of this is documented. The study was done at the bequest of the German government, and it's referred to over and over. People are getting much more strenuous in their science evaluating, and we have our drinking water right under. Through you to the proponent, could they tell us how far below the surface of the deforested area, or even the sand area, the aquifer is? How many feet from that, in that narrow strip, how many feet from the sand that we see in the photograph?
That information has been submitted, and you can go to the office and get a copy
Any
of that
rough idea?
report. I mean,
I would say 30 feet, 40 feet at least.
Well,
I'm not sure.
there is a groundwater study.
Okay, the quarry right next to it, I mean, not the quarry, the sand quarry right next to it is very visible. And the water, at times, what I've seen in photographs, you see a blue pool as if it had been intruded in already. Do you know about that?
We don't, but water table is one thing and aquifer is another.
Yes, okay, that's
Yeah,
true.
do you understand?
Yeah, I'm getting.
I mean, our aquifer, just to let you know, stretch all the way to Bridgewater. That's how from the
It
buzzer.
is vast,
Right.
but it is our drinking water as well, and we need to protect it, because if the forest buffer is gone, that's the best buffer for the aquifer. And then there's sand, and you know how permeable sand is. So it's extremely important, and that we educate ourselves about the science. The other thing is, this is not, the bylaw is not for a theoretical solar panels per square footage. It's for, and this project seems to be, if I only had a rectangle. It's not for theoretical shapes, it's for the topography of the land, and it's for the natural world that's around it to be protected. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go.
10 Carmichael Way, West Wareham,
And your name?
is Mary Horahan.
Okay, go ahead.
And my understanding is that variances typically aren't intended to facilitate someone's desire or monetary benefit. You know, I'm thinking if I sought to build an addition to my property and it encroached on another person's residential lot, I wouldn't expect the board to be seeking compromise for me the way you seem to be seeking compromise for this petitioner. I'd expect you to deny my request for a variance. I mean, I just don't see any hardship here. They knew the size of the lot when they, you know, moved forward with this. And, you know, I just don't believe we should be, you know, granting variances based on someone's wishes and monetary gain. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
I'll be brief. Megan Savage, 300 Charge Pond Road. I just want to say the residents of Charge Pond really don't support this project, and to go from 10 to 50 feet, you know, from the highway is one thing, but not to not have that 10-foot, 50-foot buffer from residential is just absurd. And, you know, the talk about potential for water quality, you know, not only is that our drinking water, but a lot of the other cranberry bogs that are on that road use that to feed their bogs, water their bogs, and also feeds the ponds that a lot of us use for recreation. So there's a lot of reasons why the residents of Charge Pond definitely do not support this project. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, I beg your
No, you
pardon,
are for the record.
Barry Cosgrove, Blackmore Pond Circle. Thank you all for your service to our town. Very quickly, we cannot lose track of the fact that there's a legal standard here. And the applicant has said, well, we've never once designed the project to comply with the bylaw because we thought the bylaw is wrong. Last time they tried to explain that, the Dean of Engineering in Wareham, Mr. Riley, said it better than I can. Their argument is preposterous. You should deny this variance and dare them to go to court and try to make the claim that abutting properties within the same district don't apply. That's one. Two, if you listen to what everyone's saying, the obvious point here tonight is more panels are more risk. The poles of the panels go 9 feet into the ground. The groundwater there is only 24 to 48 inches. You don't have to be a mathematician to figure out what that risk results in. More panels, a problem. We have cited multiple cases that say that they do not qualify for the variance. They have not objected to a single one of them. Instead, they cited 3 cases, none of which apply here. One of which involved a loading dock with a 2-foot variance because of a topography problem. Another one in Waltham where they tried to draw a comparison between Waltham, where 98% of the town is not permitted to have solar, with Wareham, where 98% of the town already has solar. There's no comparison whatsoever. On this point, that there was this supposed close compromise between the planning board and the applicant, I was at those planning board meetings, and I can tell you that is a gross exaggeration. The planning board did it by the book and professionally and with diligence. You want a variance, you go to the ZBA. This notion that they were really close and they're coming to you with help to just put it over the edge is fiction. They cannot pass the legal standard. They've been involved in projects right next door where they didn't need the variance and they got it in. This is a money grab. Think about it. A solar project in Wareham is allowed in a residential district. That's unusual. But people said, hey, you know what? Because it's industrial nature, we should give a little more of a setback, 50 feet versus 10 or 20. And what do? They come in and they say, oh, we don't want that. Wanting is not the way
15
it
seconds,
works.
sir.
The ZBA is not an
You're
edge-a-sketch.
20 seconds over. Try to sum it up.
Sum it up.
So to sum it up, there should be no more continuances, and you should deny this thing. The whole street of Charles Pond Road is here to tell you, they too think it's not in the best interest of the town.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Who else?
Sorry about that. My name is Jeannie Lennon, and I live at 93 Blackmore Pond Circle in West Wareham. I will be brief. I'm very much opposed to the variance. I've always loved being in Wareham and living in Wareham. It's a beautiful town, and I really worry about, in the past several years, Wareham becoming an environmental guinea pig for all kinds of projects and all kinds of things that take away from, that will ultimately, I believe, take away from its quaintness and beauty. And if not one more tree had to come down for this project, I would be very happy. I think that, you know, the more we put in, the more we're going to have to worry about later. So, you know, I think we're all seeing that there are concerns about environmental issues and health concerns, and it's all going to unfold in its own pace. But I think we do have to be careful about not putting in, at this point, any more than we absolutely have to until we start finding out, you know, what the real concerns for the people in the town are going to be. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.